noticed that some people can really think on their feet and other people can't? Some people can think on their feet. It's a skill for me that I've developed, which proves, at least in my experience, that you can go from not being able to think on your feet to being able to think on your feet. So I want to talk about the journey that I was on. I don't know if this is a method, honestly. I don't know if this is what I'm definite about proclaiming, but I can tell you, I know how I got there. A big part of the problem in not being able to speak your mind or think on your feet or find the right words in the moment is this idea that you need to get it right. I was very concerned about saying the right thing. I was very concerned about what if I said the wrong thing. I was very concerned about getting it right. And that often got in my way. So what would happen is in my regular autopilot life, I'm going around just being myself, talking, saying whatever, comfortable, free. I'm very expressive. I would get to a moment that's important. The stakes would be higher. My attention would circle back on myself. I'd become hyper aware of myself. And I'd think, oh, gosh, I've got to say the right thing here. And then I couldn't find it. Couple that with the fact that so many people say, gosh, if so-and-so could just get out of their own way, they'd be great. I've gotten that a million times. You're great. Just if you can get out of your way, how do you get out of your way? How do you get out of your own way? I sang and spoke and talked my way out of this. What I started doing was interesting. It seems so irrelevant, but I would start while doing mundane tasks like dishes or laundry or something like that, mowing the lawn, driving around in my car. I would start verbalizing and I would do several things. These are a random set of techniques, by the way. The specificity is around practicing talking on the fly as opposed to a particular technique. But I deployed several. One was really straightforward, putting it in the box. I'm driving my car. I would ask myself a question randomly, and I would present an answer. I practiced, tossed myself a question, answer as if I were presenting. And I started to get faster at being able to respond. That's an on-the-nose, really straightforward approach to solving that problem. Some of mine were a little out there, but they really helped. One is I started singing. I started singing songs and tried to make the lyrics rhyme. So what I would do is take a song where I knew the music, the melody, but I didn't necessarily know the words, or I'd put words to a classical music tune. So I would sing something, da 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 da. I would try to put some words to that. And what I do is try to keep it going. And what happened is I started to grab impulses and more quickly throw them out as I would sing lyrics and make them sound as good as I could without stopping the song. Kind of a ridiculous idea, but I started to be able to connect my conscious mind to impulses that I could pull on. It's not all that different from when I would take, throw out a question and provide an answer, which is more straightforward. I also started doing poetry and rhyming. I would try to, throw out a phrase and then a following one, and a following one, and a following one, and keep the rhyme going. And things like that allowed me to think faster. Now, the other thing I did was to get over the stage fright part of that. There's a deer in headlights moment when suddenly the stakes go up and you need to give an answer to something and you can't find it. And that's just I learned to push through that. The way I did it was somewhat, this is pushing through stage fright, I don't know if you do this, but I started by, I lived at the time at a condo that had windows that faced a bunch of other condos and a park, and people could see you. I would open up the windows and I would stand in front of the windows and I would practice presenting. I would present to people, and I'm sure people could look up and see me. At night, they would look in the windows and here's this guy presenting out to me. It made me feel uncomfortable, potentially observed, and so I started doing that. Then later I went out into the park. There's 50 people in the park swinging on the swing set, playing soccer, out with their kids, whatever people do in the parks, walking the dogs. And I would go take the center of that park and I would practice presenting. And the third thing I did, which I doubt you're going to do, but I did it. I would pull up to like a Home Depot or something like that. And I would take the song on the radio and I would continue to sing that song. And I would sing it as I went into the store. And the rule is I couldn't stop singing until I was back in the car. I only did this 2 or 3 times, but I found I could. It was so uncomfortable and very difficult, especially when you get in the checkout line. The rule for me was I had to sing loud enough that people could hear me singing. And I would sing while I'm standing in line, and I would sing all the way out the door. And at the end of these experiences, presenting out to the open windows, presenting in the park, forcing myself to sing while I was in a public place where people could hear me, you could do less extreme versions of that. Coupled with asking myself questions and presenting out the answers, and singing by adding lyrics that I make up as I go to a melody I know, and rhyming, forcing myself to find the poetry in that, rhyme sequence. It allowed me to get connected with my inner impulses. So as thoughts are racing around back there in the subconscious, I could grab them and put them out. Now, I didn't do this like every day, but I did it, or maybe I did it every day, but I didn't do it every moment. It was a process of a couple of years of doing these things on a somewhat regular basis. At the end of it, there's no deer in headlights anymore. I might start a sentence I can't finish, but I will find a relatively articulated response to whatever comes to me. I will find the articulate response, and I will grab thoughts that are just racing through my head and pull something useful out in a pinch, in the moment, and under pressure. If any of these work, just try one of them. Maybe don't try all of them, but there's a journey that anyone can take to get to the point where they can speak on the fly, they can speak in the moment, and they can think on their feet.